Every day, millions of pigs are on the plates of the consumers all around in the world, and in Europe especially. Millions of pigs are treated in horrible ways before they are ending on the plates. From the birth until the horrible way of dying, they are maltreated. And do the consumers care? In order to find out if they can be more aware of what's going on behind that piece of meat on the plate, the European Parliament's Jeppe Kofod, a Danish MEP, has arranged both a exhibition here, we'll come back to that later, and a roundtable, you could call it, within the Intergroup for Animal Welfare. Here I have a representative, Mrs. Loren.
Elena Nalon.
Thank you very much for correcting me from the very beginning. I would like to know in which way the Eurogroup, based in Brussels, representing the big Association for Animal Welfare all over Europe, is working on behalf of the pigs.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I represent today Eurogroup for Animals. We are a federation, an umbrella organization representing at the moment 60 animal welfare organizations across Europe. We are based in Brussels, as you said, and we traditionally work with the European institutions and with industry stakeholders and scientists to promote the uptake of animal welfare policies in all fields where animals are used for human advantage, so to speak. We are acutely aware that at the moment there is an animal welfare crisis in the pig sector. We don't hesitate to call it like this. We know that pig welfare legislation, which has been in place for more than 20 years, is not being respected in Europe, not being enforced. Particularly concerning the provision of environmental enrichment, so diversions for pigs, and the prohibition of routine tail docking. And for this reason, we organized together with Jeppe Kofod, our host, an exhibition here in the Parliament, a photographic exhibition, a multimedia 3D experience where visitors can see firsthand what it's like to enter into an intensive pig farm, to sensitize parliamentarians and the public opinion to the plight of the 250 million pigs that we raise in the European Union. And this initiative is organized within a Europe-wide campaign, which is called End Pig Pain, that we launched in May this year, calling on citizens to ask their agricultural ministers to do whatever they can to enforce pig welfare legislation in their countries and to support phasing out of surgical piglet castration by 2024.
And to my left, I have the representative of the scientists. You're the president of the German veterinarians. Professor Brahe, what is your reaction to the way of informing about the suffering of those, in my opinion, fascinating animals?
First of all, I want to correct. I'm the president of the Association of Veterinarians for Animal Welfare in Germany. Okay. So I'm not the president of the veterinarians, but in this capacity and most of all in the capacity of being a researcher over many years about pig welfare and pig health, I would say that we need to make sure that more and more people understand that whenever we have alternatives to what we have done so far, putting pain to the animals by castrating them in the traditional way, as soon as we have alternatives, the ethical justification doing this is gone, it's obsolete.
But do we have these alternatives?
Well, we have alternatives. None of them is easy and without pros and cons. And there's first we could use anesthesia prior to the surgery to relieve the pain. We can raise intact male pigs, boars, and there is an immunization that reduces the boar taint by antibodies. And the important thing is that we need to make people understand both the producers that have to use it and the consumers and the retailers about these alternatives. And we want to say that there is no scientific lack of knowledge or lack of scientific knowledge. We know everything what we can do instead of just castrating the piglets without any pain relief. But there are cons to each of the three alternatives, and most people think that the cons, the things that contradict and that make it difficult are the same for all three alternatives, which is more or less true. But if we have a closer look and look at what is the best for the animals,
but
then we have one alternative that clearly sticks out.
But the reason for these castrations is because of the male pigs having, it said, a certain smell. But we're talking about, have I learned, maximum 10 to 15% of those.
Much less.
How can we avoid that the consumers are confronted with that horrible smell? I never found any kind of smell.
Well, you never found any kind of smell? That's true, since we castrated 100% of all male pigs. So just to make sure that these 10 or 20% do not reach the plate of the consumer. That's the reason why you never have smelled it. But here is the important thing, or the difference between poultry production and pig production, for instance, is pig is a big animal and we cut it in many pieces. So it's not just to say, oh, maybe this smells and we shouldn't use it for food, but we don't know where it is. So we have to make sure that all male animals are treated in a way that this poor smell cannot come to the fore. So far we did it by castration, and we think that we can do it by either using analgesia, so that the after surgery pain is relieved, or we can do it by immunization. And this immunization is easy. It is 2 syringes, like an immunization against any infection, and that's all the animals have to endure. And we have to make sure that people understand that this is not a hormone, it is not a chemical castration, what many people think. It is a regular immunization. We produce antibodies against the hormone that produces this smell. So we could have the same result as with castration.
From an ethical point of view, the way pigs are treated from the very birth until their horrible death, how can we avoid that consumers look upon these as just a part of an even cheap part of the meat they want to eat?
It's a difficult question, but we
no,
know
it's an
that
easy question, but
we know that
difficult to answer.
indeed. We know that consumers care. We know because, like, the results of the last Eurobarometer on animal welfare clearly indicate that European citizens want animal welfare to be better guaranteed, and they actually look for higher welfare meat or
yeah, but then comes the price.
Yeah, there is a willingness to pay, although it's true that the behavior of the citizens, what the citizens declare they want to do, and their ethical values and their behavior as consumers are not one and the same. We've discussed this today. We think that, first of all, laws should be enforced. That is, for us, the very basic. We have laws, they should be implemented. And second, if we really believe that animal welfare is a value in the European Union, and I think this is the case, then consumers, we as a society, should be willing to pay a bit more for it. And this price should be distributed across the value chain. So it shouldn't be only the consumers. It's not the responsibility only of consumers to pay a higher price. It should be distributed along the value chain. And I would add that this is also easier if we all eat a little bit less and we pay the right price, because these are lives, these are sentient beings, these are not potatoes that we are eating. Yeah? So we want to eat animals, we have to treat them right. We have this in our European treaty even, that animals are sentient beings. We have to
but with
act
a lot of
accordingly.
exceptions, but that's another story.
Yeah, we have to
Another-
act accordingly, and at the moment this isn't happening. I would only like to add one thing concerning the prevalence of boar taint. It's much lower, in fact, that it used to be in the past. It used to be said that it's as high as 10, 20%. In fact, countries like the Netherlands, who have a lot of experience in detecting boar taint, there are a lot of scientific studies showing that the prevalence is now less than 5%, and only half of consumers are sensitive to the smell. So we are castrating almost all of our piglets without paying relief to avoid something that has a very, very low risk of happening.
May I finalize by asking you?
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. I want to add one short thing to the question with the consumer ethics. Very short. We need to learn that there are products that have an ethical value. And when we know this, meat belongs to it, then why do we allow retailers to sell the meat with so low a price? That's something that by law we could prohibit, and this would take care of our ethical responsibility.
May I finalize by asking you the question, being representing the veterinarians? Very often I learn at the slaughtering process that the pigs are suffering horribly. No, we are not talking about the state of the health and so on, but we are talking about the emotional feelings of pigs. They are very sensitive, and the way they are killed. Why is it accepted by the veterinarians that animals are treated this way?
Well, I mean, the veterinarians have the last say, but they are responsible to control this process, but they are not the ones that do it. I want to say something, as I said earlier, we have the scientific solutions to do this in a very soft and smooth way. For instance, pigs are social creatures. If you take them away from the group and bring them towards the stunning procedure where they are killed, then they feel lonely and they feel fear and suffering.
They are dying in a horrible way.
But we can do this in a much better way with groups that stay together, very calm, no shouting, no beating, and then with gas. And most of all, what we need to do is in all slaughter plants we can have video cameras, and we can measure the blood stream so that we can be sure that the stunning is immediate and done in a very smooth way. We have to control it, since most mistakes are made by humans, and this can be prevented by a good controlling and surveying of the process.
And I want to end up by saying that if the walls in the slaughterhouses were made of glass, no one would eat the meat from pigs.